Hi guys, and welcome back to another gear set review. Today we're going to be looking at the gear set Elemental Catalyst. Okay, so the Elemental Catalyst set is often used by Necromancer damage dealers, and as we move into the Flames of Ambition patch, it's looking more and more likely that this is going to end up as kind of a main tank set for quite a few situations. And the reason for that is because there's a lot of sets that are becoming less useful. So we've got sets like Ebon and Worm are not as good in higher up groups. We haven't really got Alkosh anymore in Magicka groups, and most groups are Magicka based groups. So this leaves us with a very big gap to fill in terms of the gear sets, and one of the easiest sets to manage is the Elemental Catalyst set. So let's take a look at the bonuses for this set. So we've got a 2-piece bonus of Max Magicka, a 3-piece of Spell Crit, 4-piece Max Magicka again, and then the important part, the 5-piece. Whenever you deal Flame, Shock or Frost damage, you apply a stack of Flame, Shock or Frost weakness to the enemy for 3 seconds. Each stack of an elemental weakness increases their critical damage taken by 3%. An enemy can only have 1 stack of each elemental weakness at a time. So basically, we can increase the crit damage that an enemy takes by 9% by maintaining Flame, Shock and Frost damage on them and keeping that 3-second Frost, Flame and Shock weakness applied. Now, this gear set comes from Stone Garden, and the main problem is going to be is the fact that you need jewelry, and you also need the one-hand and shield, and you'd need an ice staff or whatever staff it is you're going to use to maintain one of those elemental weaknesses. So in this case, I'm going to use a Dragon Knight tank. So the Dragon Knight tank is good because we've got the option of using a flame skill for the flame weakness. So typically you might use Engulfing Flames. Now if you've already got a Mag DK in your group who's using Engulfing Flames and they're also getting the 10% value, then you would just use Burning Embers instead. Now Burning Embers is essentially better to a certain degree because it costs less, it lasts the same duration, so there's no issue with doing that. But you wouldn't want to double up on the Engulfing Flames. So if you've already got a Mag DK in your group using Engulfing Flames, hitting the 10%, then don't use it. You could be responsible for running Engulfing Flames and not have a Mag DK in your group. Like, that is possible this patch. It's very easy to settle with Engulfing Flames on a tank now, much easier than it has been in the past because we've got higher spell damage, we've got higher base stats, but we'll talk about that in another video. But in general, you can use Engulfing Flames or Burning Embers for your flame-based weakness. Now for the Shock and the Frost, easy thing, we've got the Frost Staff. We just use a Frost Staff. The Frost Staff is a tank weapon, we've gone over this before. You're going to want to use the Frost Staff for tanking anyway. Now the tricky part is the glyph. So usually you'd run an Infused Crusher on your back bar staff. Now in this case, you would want to use a Shock glyph, and that's to maintain the maximum uptime on your Shock glyph. So using Infused, which is going to reduce the cooldown, so it's going to proc on cooldown. The Shock damage glyph is going to proc on cooldown. This would mean that somebody else needs to be running the Crusher enchant, so that's something you'd need to discuss with your group. You'd need to tell a healer or the off tank they need to be in charge of Crusher, because you won't be able to do it if you're running the Catalyst set, and you want to keep the absolute maximum uptime of all of the weaknesses to maintain that 9% increased crit damage. Okay, so how easy is it to maintain this particular gear set? Well, the answer is it's very easy. So the idea is that you want to activate both your flame weakness and your frost weakness at the same time. They've both got the same duration. So we're using 2 skills that have got the same duration, which makes this really easy. So we activate them one after the other, and then that means we can maintain a really nice rotation. So we use Burning Embers, that lasts 14 seconds. We use Frost to Blockade, which lasts 14 seconds. And Frost to Blockade is also going to activate the Shock glyph on cooldown. So let's take a little look at it here. If we go with that, and then we put down Blockade instantly after, as you can see at the top there, that's our weaknesses. And they're just going to automatically keep ticking with these 2 skills. Very, very easy. And then all we need to do now is just cast our skills on cooldown. So we're getting to the end of our Burning Embers, we're going to recast that, and then we're going to recast Blockade. And this is going to maintain those weaknesses 100% of the time. And our Shock glyph is going to keep proccing because we're using an infused weapon, so that's going to proc on cooldown. And we're going to maintain some very, very good uptimes with this set. And there we go. So that is using Elemental Catalyst. If you see in a real combat situation, it's not going to be as simple as that and activating everything that easily. But what it means is you can activate one skill then the other, and all three elements are going to proc automatically. So if you take a look here, obviously we've got 100% on the Flame Weakness and 98% because that was the skill we cast second. But overall, very simple to activate all three things on a Dragon Knight by setting up just this way. Another thing to note is we have the Encratis' Behemoth Monster set on, and that procs way more reliably by using an actual flame skill than using a flame glyph. So using a flame glyph is a solid option if you are not a DK for the monster set, but if you are a DK, it's far better to actually use just a flame skill because you're going to get a way better, more reliable uptime, and it's going to proc better by doing that. So as you can see, it's very, very simple to kind of run in this setup. So not all classes are going to have the same kind of ease of access to this set as the Dragon Knight. Now the Dragon Knight is very, very easy to use for this particular set because of it having the engulfing flames and the flame-based attacks that they can use to proc it. Now a Sorcerer would have a similar ease because they have liquid lightning. So what you could do for that one is obviously you'd use a Frost Staff for the infused flame glyph with liquid lightning on a Sorc. So that would achieve the same kind of results. On a Necromancer, you could do a similar kind of thing again. You could use Boneyard, which has got which has got frost damage. You could use an Ice Staff still, and you could use Flame Glyph as well. So the Necro has things there that has ice and shock damage that you can utilize from the Necro. The Templar has Vampire's Bane, Ice Staff, Shock Glyph. For a Warden, you'd have to use something like Gripping Shards for the ice, with a shock, with a Lightning Staff and a Flame Glyph. And then for the Nightblade, you would have to use maybe an Ice Staff, Shock Glyph, and then Scalding Room from the Mages Guild skill line. So every single class has the option to be able to do it. Some easier than others, some of the skills are better than others to use, but overall every single class has the option to do this for tanking. So why would you use this on a tank? Well, the main reason, to be honest, is because it is a support set. By the tank using it, it gives you a useful set that you don't need to be in range of group members to activate. You have to be in range of the target, which you will be. It also means that if you've got a Necromancer who uses Elemental Catalyst, they could now go with a more damage-orientated setup and do a little bit more DPS. So that's kind of the main reason why you would consider using this in your group. Overall, I would say for this set, this is definitely a very good option for tanking, especially for like more higher up level groups. So maybe not for beginner level groups, you wouldn't be probably using something like this. On a tank, you'd be going with something more safer, something aura based, something that's going to give health and sustain benefits and things like that. In terms of like a mid-range to high level group, Elemental Catalyst as the main tank set is definitely something that should be considered. And that's because it's going to improve your group, it's going to give the main tank a useful set to use. It's very easy to use it. The main difficult part is farming the weapons and the jewelry, because you are going to need weapons and jewelry. You cannot one bar this set, because if you've got your stuff active and then you're kind of on your front bar, it won't refresh. It won't refresh because you've got to have it on both bars. So let's say, look, you've got your weaknesses there, and then you're on your front bar. If you've only got it back barred, it won't work. You need to have the 5-piece active on both bars. So that does create the issue where you would need the one-handed shield, you would need the staff, and you would need the jewelry. So you could use the hands and the waist if you wanted to, if you can't get hold of the weapons. That is going to reduce your ability to mitigate damage. It's going to increase the amount of damage you're taking because you're wearing light pieces. So that is something to consider if you can't get the weapons as a kind of short-term solution. But ideally, weapons and jewelry are going to be the way you need to run the set. So overall, I would give this set a 4 out of 5 stars. It's got 4 stars and not... It's got 4 stars, not 5 stars. I haven't given it 5 stars because it's not an out-and-out tank set. It's not something that's activated automatically. You have to play for it. You have to set up for it. It's not easy to farm. It's a bit of a pain to farm. And it's not going to be good for every group because it requires attention, it requires effort. You've got to remember to recast things on cooldown. So it does require a little bit more effort than things like Yolnahquin, for example. So it's only got 4 stars due to its access level and the ability to maintain the uptimes. In terms of really solid groups though, this is probably going to be something that you've got to run on a main tank for this patch. Make sure you check out the tankclub.com for more information on tank gear. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.